Hi there, I'm Stat. I wanted to make this video to recap how I felt about Season 1 of the Cycle Frontier. This is the first season that I played the game, and in fact the first time that I got serious about extraction-based shooters as a genre, and so I've progressed a lot over the season, and I wanted to kind of capture how I felt at the beginning and at the end, so that way, starting in Season 2, I can come back and see how much I feel like I progressed after then. First thing to do is to check out the statistics. So 10 million credits in loot from matches, almost 13 million cable arc in general, and a 9,000 average with a 270,000 highest. I think this is pretty decent. I definitely spent a lot of time extracting with not a ton of loot, so that's why it's not super high, and I didn't run a ton of drills. Obviously, I ran a couple. That's how I got the 270, but in general, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'm feeling less great about my KD. You'll notice I have 133 prospector kills and 430 deaths by prospectors, so that's like a 0.25-ish KD. I'm not super great at PvP in this game, and it's one of the things that I really want to improve upon in future seasons since it's a huge part of what makes the cycle so much fun. I did 1,100 drops and almost 560 successful evacuations. That's between 0.5 and 0.6. I was holding on to 0.6 for a really, really long time, and then I sort of stopped caring about it as a statistic and did a bunch of knife runs. Oh well, not the end of the world. I had one 49-minute match, which is pretty darn long, and then 1 minute for overall average match time, which was bugged for a lot of the season. But I had a lot of deaths right away, especially when I was starting. So I'm interested to see how this changes for Season 2. In my inventory right now, I still have a bunch of stuff. So I've been actively trying to lose my gear. I'm still going to end up playing tonight, and so these numbers are going to change very slightly, but I managed to craft one of each of the legendary guns. I'm looking forward to giving those a try this evening. And then I still have a bunch of hammers and some other random stuff lying around. I've been actively trying to lose all my gear and finding out that wow, I don't lose it as much as I thought I normally would. So part of that is just doing to get better at the game. Part of that is also getting over gear fear in general. Same sort of deal with armor. I've been saving all this fancy armor I had till the end of the season, and now at the end of the season I haven't even used it. So this is definitely one of the big things that I'm looking forward to changing my mindset about in Season 2, and the Cataclysm event really helped me with this already. Since I come from Destiny before this game, where you basically just hoard gear, and you're always trying to find more gear, and you keep it forever, I'm sort of used to that sort of mindset when it comes to gear. And in these white-based games, the gear is just going to go away, so you have to use it. Like, it doesn't matter that I accumulated this stuff, because in 13 hours from now or so, it'll all be gone, no matter what. And so I'm kind of wasting a resource by not using it. So I think one of the things that I'm going to try to do with Season 2 to even further get myself over gear fear is just start equipping my best stuff all the time. There's so many times, even 2 weeks ago, where I had 4 sets of red armor, I had like 5 sets of purple armor, 2 rows of blues, 3 rows of greens, like way too much. And I was still crafting white armor and bringing it in because I was like, I'm gonna die and I wanna waste my stuff. Well, all these things are now wasted or will be wasted. And so I gotta get a little bit better about that. So I think that's kind of fun though, because that's like one of the biggest mentality shifts coming into this sort of game is like not being so scared to like lose your stuff. And I definitely have been that way. And I think that this was going to be one of my biggest challenges going into next season. As part of that, I think one of the things that's kind of interesting as well is that I had this tendency during this season whenever I would lose a bunch of PvP matches to start using worse stuff. So be like, oh man, I just lost 2 sets of blue. I better drop down to green. I just lost 2 more greens. I better drop down to white. But when I think about it, ironically, I feel like I should be gearing up when that happens because my MMR is dropping and I'll be playing against like worse people, and I also need to push my advantage a little bit more. If I'm dying all the time, I should be running some better gear because hopefully that will stop me from dying all the time. So I think that's been a little bit counterproductive and really held me back, especially earlier in the season. It's been a really big blast this last 2 weeks just to like use all this fancy stuff that I've accumulated, and I'm excited to do it better in the future. There's nothing super useful here. I sold all my materials except for the last couple runs, so there's not a whole lot left in the inventory that's particularly interesting. Objectives-wise, I did all the missions everywhere except for the fact that I did not end up beating the dungeon. I'm gonna give it another try tonight, and maybe I will end up beating it. I'll end up leaving a comment if that's what happened, just so I can remember. I've gotten to the Alpha Crusher a couple times, but always end up dying at the last second. So, oh well. Maybe I'll be able to knock it out, maybe not. But I think that's totally fair. Sometimes I also got ganked by other players coming up behind me, just how the game goes. But I'm like really proud of getting through almost all of those challenges and, finishing that off. I managed to get to level 18 in Korolev, 17 in ICA. I might get to 18 tonight, but I doubt it. And then 16 in Osiris. I thought that the Kinetic Arbiter was at level 18 for ICA, but it's actually at 20. So that's the only gun I really meaningfully can't craft right now that I wish that I had. I got a Gorgon and used it and like wasn't super into it, so I wasn't super bummed about not being able to craft it for Osiris. And Korolev, I really like all their guns and they're a lot of fun, but I didn't really use the core as much as I like hoped to. I mean, I bought 10 or 15 of them because I was up at like 4 million credits last week, but I've also been trying to spend all my credits. So I've been buying expensive guns and using them. I really wish that I would have access to the Kinetic Arbiters, and I kind of wish the end of the season event had managed to make Kinetic Arbiters and other things like that available to the entire player base, because I got exactly one of them that I stole off of a person, and then I loaded in and I went to go shoot a Strider, and as I aimed down sights, I got double shot by 2 other Kinetic Arbiters and lost it. So I never even got to fire my single Kinetic Arbiter this season. So that's a bummer. Kind of wish the event had done that. I understand why they're not, so it's not sort of like the end of the world. The last meaningful thing to talk about in terms of progression is the upgrades. So I managed to get here to level 7 overall. I had 20 Zero System CPUs and enough print resin to upgrade it. And I had like 3 or 4 Crusher hides. But when I looked at the rest of the stuff that was going to be going on, I never really thought it was actually useful. And those Zero System CPUs are useful for crafting blue armor. So I decided to craft more blue armor and just not end up prioritizing this. As someone who plays largely solo, it's not impossible to kill Crushers. Like I killed 4 or 5 Crushers this season. But, it was just kind of a slog for an upgrade that didn't really make a big deal. You see what I mean here? Like, okay, so I could have increased my K-Mark generator rate for the last week of the season. Like, doesn't really matter. I'm swinging K-Marks. I need to spend more of them. I wouldn't even get an inventory upgrade for level 8. And I wouldn't even get a Prospector Quarters upgrade for level 8. So really, it would only be until level 9 where I don't get anything here, and I do get this safe pocket. Like, this is the only thing I would have cared about, and while it would be nice to have those extra 20 slots, it also wasn't the end of the world, and, it's also unfortunate because, like, I had all this stuff to do all these upgrades, but, like, it just felt like such a slog to do the last couple rounds of these that I just, like, didn't end up making it happen. If I played more often, maybe that would be the case, or if I got better at killing Crushers by myself, maybe that would have been totally fine, but that's kind of where I ended up at. So you can also see, 65 out of 85 of my generators. I managed to basically fully upgrade this stuff. I sort of stopped caring about the total like caps as well, because like I'm already not hitting the cap with my generation because I collect it every day for sure. So am I really going to spend 11 Smart Mesh to upgrade that, or am I going to use that Smart Mesh to craft other things? And so that's what I ended up deciding to do, and kind of just left this, sort of where it's at. I'm really glad that I managed to upgrade my supply crate the whole way, because it was really great to get like useful gear out of it every day instead of not useful gear. So that was really nice. And I'm glad I invested in the resources there. Definitely, this stuff was super clutch, and I figured that out pretty quickly, but I'll be really glad to sort of power this up immediately in Season 2, especially this right here. This last safe pocket upgrade capacity was so worth it. Upgrading stuff so that you end up having 12 safe pocket is like the biggest advantage in this game. When I was at 10, I couldn't carry a key in my safe pocket as well as carrying a 10's item worth of things. So the 12 was like a really, really big upgrade in terms of being able to get stuff. So that was mega, mega useful. And then this is like pretty much irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. I just did it because I had the resources and I like mine as well. But like in reality, I'm not usually that sad about the Prospector upgrading time, because like I'm only doing it 10 times maximum anyway. If it takes like a day instead of a day and a half, is that really actually significant to me? Not really. So this just kind of felt like a total waste. But it is what it is. So and I guess the other thing I would say is that in terms of like guns and stuff, I would say that the hammer was like my kind of surprise favorite sort of thing, especially once I got a silencer. Being able to go into the jungle and just like kill Jeffs and like get a bunch of loot really quickly and easily was like super, super clutch, and I'm really, really glad. I'm still terrible with a hammer in PvP. I really wish that you could adjust the sights on it, but this is sort of the gun that grew on me the most over the season. I also really, really like the Phasic Lancer, and I'm looking forward to using them a little more often. My mental model of Phasic Lancer is that it was kind of an expensive gun, and so I didn't use it very much as early as I should have. And so a lot of these kind of blue tier guns, I kind of mentally skipped over, and I stayed playing white and green guns for far too long because I just like didn't really fully appreciate the sort of price performance of how the different guns work, and I thought that I was a lot poorer than I actually was. There was a time at the start of the season where I was hovering between 50,000 and 30,000 credits all the time. I'd get up to 50, and then I'd die a bunch and go back down to 30. And then I'd get up to 50, and then die and go back down to 30. And then I learned how to do knife runs, and I just started making more and more money, and it was like totally fine. And at that point, I still was like really worried about like kind of losing my bankroll. And this is kind of similar to the gear fear in general. It's kind of like bankroll management. I feel like early in the season, I was focused solely on gaining even more K marks. And, at the end of the day, they weren't that useful to me. I could have bought so many more Phasic Lancers. It's what, like they cost 30,000 credits or something? So I could have bought like 100 of them over the course of the season effectively for free. Like I missed out on the opportunity to do that. And so I'm looking forward to buying more guns more often. I was really happy to be able to unlock Voltaic Brutes. And this was also a gun that was like a ton of fun, and I really enjoyed it a lot. I'll be looking forward to using those more often next season as well. And then the DMRs I was never super good at. I enjoyed using the long shot and some other DMRs, but like, not super necessarily my favorite. I will say the Shatter gun is also like super, super amazing, and I really love that as well. Really great Jeff killing gun, really good at PvP. So I definitely am really excited to like use that more often. So that's kind of those things, and I'm pretty sure that's like all I really have to say about this season. I guess one other last thing that I wish they had changed, but is not the case in this one, is that the Fortuna Pass maxes out at level 100, and I was able to complete that like relatively quickly, and that just meant that all these daily actions were just like totally irrelevant for me. Like it didn't actually matter that I was doing any of these things anymore because I couldn't get anything, over 100. In Destiny, when the season pass happens, you kind of get to go over 100 and you get extra bonus cosmetics for doing so. I don't even necessarily think the cosmetics are like required. It works in Destiny because there's 8 years of cosmetics, but they can throw you some of the old ones that aren't really as expensive. And in this game, there's not as many, so I don't think that's necessary, but it would have been cool to like see how high I could have gotten. Like if this wasn't capped to 100, would I be at level 200, at level 300? Would some of the like daily streamers be at level like 1,000? Like, I don't know. And that would have been sort of interesting. So even if this just would have continued to make the numbers go up, it would have made me care about all this stuff a lot more. And so, I kind of feel like this ended up being a waste for most of the season because I capped out relatively quickly, and then that wasn't a thing as much. Similarly, we talked about objectives, but jobs are almost always a waste of time. I really wish I had learned that a little earlier and had not done as many jobs as I ended up doing, because like they're just not really often worth it from a price performance perspective, like at all. So like, for example here, okay, I can turn in 5 Zero System CPUs and 16 hardened metals to get 2,700 credits and 440 points. But like, I have 2 million credits and I need 31,000 points to get Coreliv up to level again. Like this is like effectively nothing. And this is like one of the hard jobs. 5 Marauders, kill 5 Jeffs and get 100 points. That's like 0.3% of my, if I'm doing that math correctly, of like a level up here. It's really just like, I would rather just kill Marauders and then like sell their stuff and get things that way. The only thing the jobs are really useful for is for a script. And like, if you actually look at my scripts, sorry, they're my safe pockets, I have thousands of them just sitting around. So like, it wasn't super useful to be able to do that. Maybe back whenever it was more expensive to craft drills, and if I'd crafted a bunch of drills, then maybe that would be something that would be like useful to have done. But other than that, I was never hurting for scripts at all. And so I kind of did too many jobs. Like doing 100 of these jobs, not really super worth it. And it took time away when I was still going through the quests to like focus on the quest line, because I would stop doing quest progress to get jobs done. And that was just totally not worth it. I should have definitely powered through. And kind of related, everyone talks about powering up to get stims. I definitely should have used green and blue stims more. It's so funny now I'm using exclusively blue stims and just buying them at these rows at a time. And no meaningful dent in my bank account when I could have been using them. I've still been using white stims for way too late for similar kind of gear fear-ish reasons. I'd be like, oh man, I only have 15 blue stims. I don't want to use them all when I'm sitting on literally millions of credits. And that just is not a meaningful amount of money for me to purchase them. So I should have been more aggressive about that as well. All right, well, that is pretty much all that I have to say about my Season 1 recap. I will hopefully be making more videos on this channel in the future, and here's looking forward to a really fun Season 2.